bro.
But everybody judges a book by its cover,
Yeah,
and
sure.
still, and when they see you for the first time or meet you, it is a very Zen quality that you have about yourself, which is great because it's a very
bring your mic in a little bit more.
It's not an off-putting thing. It's a very friendly thing. So when they meet you, your Zen quality about yourself makes you very inviting to talk to hang out with, to just stand next to you. I mean, if you're standing next to this crazy dude all covered with tattoos, I'd like it to be you because you have a very, I guess, good aura about yourself.
I'm kind of excited about this. I don't ever get to answer no questions.
I do like this one. So this one's real easy. It says, is your online persona accurate to how you are in person? And with you, I can answer that for you because that's 100% who you are all the time.
Well,
that's what I love. Like
this game's easy.
I mean, yeah, I've known you long enough now that isn't, there's always been times where, I'll be honest, even when y'all got a divorce, when you got a divorce, I looked at my wife and I was like, do we get Jared and Scottie and everybody in the divorce? Or are we because for me, I don't have a lot of guys that I hang out with outside of Shiner Saloon. Everybody I know is a bar person. You guys were like the first real group of 5, 6, 7 guys that went to the gym, that worked out, that had real jobs and, still went out and had a good time, but you had lives. Jared had 3 kids. And I was like, I love hanging out with these dudes because y'all were real people. And it's, your whole, it's be genuine. And y'all were genuinely cool guys to hang out with that I never met before. So when you were getting a divorce, I knew way better than I knew you when we first, I didn't even know you at all when we first met. And I was like, am I not going to get to hang out with Scottie? And am I not going to get to can we go to the Turley's crawfish boil? And Ashley was like, you can do whatever the heck you want. And Ashley was still friends with for about a year or two. And then it got too much for her too, where, they just had different mindsets and Ashley was having babies and was reliving her life. And, it's not good or bad. It was just different. And so Ashley chose to maybe just not hang out with her and that they drifted apart. But I'm so thankful that I'm still friends with you guys.
I think the hard part, I think it's going to be a very obvious thing, but the hard part about a divorce or most traumatic events in your life is that it's change.
And change is scary.
And change is scary and change is hard. But you have to embrace it because it's going to happen. So, the old kind of lean in. However much that is, however much you can lean in, you got to lean in because there is no, it's happening. It's happening
regardless.
Yeah. So it's just what kind of attitude do you want to have? How do you want to approach it? Who do you want to be as you go through this change?
It's like if there's a volcano erupts and you're standing there, do you stand there and get burned up?
No.
Or you take off running and you hope for the best. In life, you got to take off running and hope for the best. And that's it. Where did I see? It was a good quote. And it would say a body standing still. It's not doing it's not doing anything. And it was weird the way it was worded. It was worded way better than I said it. But I read it and I was like, that's right. If you stand there and do nothing, nothing good will happen. Well, maybe nothing bad will happen either, but nothing will happen. You can't just stand there. And usually,
but here,
if you stand there, you're going to get run over at some point.
Back this up. When you're standing there doing nothing, things are happening.
Yeah,
but you are not involved in any of it.
Yeah, so make a decision to help yourself.
So just a decision changes the dynamic of the experience that you're having. You know what I mean? Because the decision you have currently made is to do nothing, and that is its own experience.
Yeah, but everything else around you is still going at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Get involved with it any way you can. It'll help you in the long run.
Like at a minimum, choose the things that you want to be involved in, and when you choose things and they turn out to be bad choices or they turn out to be not good choices anymore, be willing to go, I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do this. And don't be beholden to any ideas of that you have to.
You don't have to.
As long as it's not hurting you or somebody else or or breaking a commitment that you've made to someone or a promise that you've made to someone,
These are pretty easy for you, I think. But
Why'd you give me easy? Give me hard.
Well, because I like it because we grew up in very similar circumstances. And this says, what is something you appreciate more the older you get?
Ooh. I just, man, I love like electronics and texting and video games and all the stuff that the world has brought to us, right? But as I get older, I really understand the value of not only just conversation, but conversation with generations and conversations with other generations of grandparents of other people, and how important it is to just constantly be open to the idea of what if, or what do you think, or you know what I mean?
I do. Okay. So when your parents were young, you were a kid, did they have like a card game that they played, or like where they like relatives came over?
Oh, bro, my grandparents played dominoes all the time. And like,
and they sat around, and
those were some of my greatest. I wasn't involved,
but it was great memories.
But there's such great memories, and I just remember they, they would drink, of course,
and they bust each other's balls,
and they bust each other. And my grandmother would, and I can't remember what the teams would be, but I just remember they would always be. I don't know what they said. I just know that they were always kind of laughing and talking noise, but I don't remember any of the words that were said. And I just remember. I remember being bored. I remember trying to find a way to entertain myself.
But your cousins would come over or something. Usually, sometimes the kids could play. Like, so in my family, they played spades a lot, and we played dominoes too. But spades was a big game between like the aunts and uncles, and there'd be like somebody would cook and they'd play spades, till we went to bed, and they would. I mean, I remember just you could hear everybody laughing, and like the uncles busting each other's nuts about something. But it was so close. And now, like, even my aunts and uncles don't get together that much. We don't, like my cousins and stuff, we don't play. When's the last time you went to like a card night? Same thing. Leave your phone at the door. We're going to hang out and we're going to play dominoes.
Here's something that I didn't realize I probably missed until this moment. When I was a kid and we would go to parent-kid parties, the kids policed themselves and the adults all hung out. And it was almost like two separate crews, right? Like the kids, like the oldest kids would police who's ever in the group and tell them what to do.
Don't burn the house down. Y'all go have fun.
But and like you're in charge. Hey, you're older, you're in charge, and blah, blah, whatever. And then the only time we would like actually go to our parents is if like someone did something messed up or someone got hurt or whatever. But like it was separate. And I could be wrong, but I feel like now parents are a little too involved in whatever's they're doing. And it just not only does it disrupt and take away from the time that you should be having adult time, but it takes away from the time of kids learning how to be kids and interact with other humans, because you're now refereeing, you're interjecting into it in something that needs to naturally like happen, that has happened over hundreds of millions of probably years.
I mean, you hear bell noise. Hey, what's going on up there? Yeah. We're fine, Dad. Everything's okay. Okay, great.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I'll set up the bouncy house, the trampoline. Like, we have things to do in our yard because we have boys. And so, like, when people are coming over with kids, I clean the trampoline off, bouncy house is out there, sandbox. I get that stuff ready. I'm like, you kids go out and play. I can see them through the window to make sure someone doesn't have a broken arm. Rather than that, I'm not yelling at them unless somebody's going to, like, y'all go out there. Learn how to be kids. We're going to stay in here and we're going to hang out. And I feel like maybe we've lost, that's the whole part of communication. Have we lost that aspect too?
I feel like I need to put a bouncy house in my backyard.
Dude, I got one that's just big enough to where they can kind of play on it. But then when you like deflate it and you roll it up, it's the size, a little bit bigger than a sleeping bag. So it's not like super heavy. And I just put it on the shelf in my garage. And then the little fan motor thing goes right up on top of it.
We're going to talk.
It's pretty good, man. And like I said, I can break it down and up in like 10 minutes.
God bless. God bless Amazon and everything you bring to us.
And my buddy had it, and he's like, "Yeah, you can borrow it," and it had like 20 holes in it. So I went to Walmart and got like a kit for patching up a pool, and I cut the patches into smaller segments, and I just started patching holes. And when I patched it all up, I was like, "Hey man, you gave me this thing with like 20 holes," and he goes, "Well, I didn't know, man." And I said, "Well, I'm keeping it." And he said, "Well, if it had holes in it, I probably wouldn't use it anyway." I said, "I fixed it. It's mine now. If you want to borrow it, you can borrow it from me." And he was like, "So you're going to store it in your garage? Okay, cool." And I was like, he'll never call me to borrow it back. But I've used it now probably 15 times in a year.
Yeah, I
And
didn't.
it's easy to break out. Like
I didn't even know that. I didn't know that was an option.
This one says, "What do you think is your superpower?"
Oh, I know what that one is.
And then I'm going to put a if you were a superhero, what power would you have?
Wait, are you asking me? Is that on
so
there?
What is? Yeah, it says, "What do you think is your superpower?"
My superpower is understanding people, but it's not just what they tell me; it's also what I feel, and that sounds really weird to say out loud. Well, no, but like when I walk in a room sometimes, or like say I'm working with a client. Sometimes when a client walks in, they don't have to say, especially if I've worked with them for a while, they don't have to say anything at all, and I can go, "Oh man, this gonna be a rough session for them," because they're holding on to something, and I can pick it up when they walk in the room.
Well, I mean, I said that earlier. Your ability to like a Rubik's Cube, your ability to turn something and look at it from different angles is like one of the things I've always admired about you. I think that is a great superpower.
But that superpower was developed through a way that was very unproductive for me. I had to learn how to take it. It's like kind of like being a Jedi. It's like, what kind of Jedi do you want to be? Do you want to be on the dark side, or you want to be a good Jedi? How are you going to use your powers? Because ultimately, whatever your superpower is, it probably has to have a opposite dark side that you could use it for evil. You know what I mean?
Are you a big Star Wars person?
Yeah. Oh, I have Star Wars tattoos, Doc.
Have you ever thought about being a Jedi?
I mean, that's the big joke is that I am a Jedi, but we'll have to go into it.
I think about this a lot because I'm a huge Star Wars person. I always think about if I was a superhero, what superhero would I be? Or if you could travel back in time. And I always laugh at myself because I'm like, dude, I'm wasting my own brain power. Like if you could go back in time, where would you want to go? Like the Old West? I mean, and how long would we last? Like, would I have to be impervious to dying because I'd be there for like 5 minutes and get killed? Let somebody be like, "Fuck you, I'm killing your ass."
Well, like think about like, so if there was like a time machine and you went back to the Old West and you didn't get a chance to like change clothes, like I'm pretty sure they'd probably shoot you immediately. Like I don't think they would even ask you like what, they wouldn't even want to know like what's up. They would just like kill you because it'd be so incredibly strange, right? Like we walk in like this, and they'd be like, "What the fuck is that?"
When was deodorant invented? And I want to go back to that year and then forward. Because, dude,
never later than that year.
I don't know if I could stand the smells. I mean, think about it. If you went back to say the 1800s in Europe, you probably couldn't walk down the street. Because it'd smell like shit and piss, and it'd be disgusting to us. And people's body odor would probably be something that no one else notices, and you'd be like, dude, everybody reeks.
I also,
because there's got to be some odors that go back in time. I mean, yes, people bathe and stuff, but wouldn't like we do.
Look, I'm no scientist or nothing like that or biologist, but I also would think that maybe possibly their immune systems might have been better than ours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we go back and like the stuff that like, when we go to other countries, a lot of times from the United States, we have to get shots because of diseases they have there that we do not have here. So you go back into those times where there was like a shit ton of diseases. I mean,
yeah.
Nobody thinks about that when they travel back in time. They don't think about all the shit they're gonna need.
Yeah. Could you eat the food? Could you
drink the water?
Yeah. Oh, you probably drink the water and immediately get good old Montezuma's revenge. Anywhere in the world, your stomach would not be able to handle that.
Okay, but hang on. How we started this whole conversation was talking about being Jedis. So what? Like I
don't know, but this is just stupid stuff that I think about.
Oh,
okay. So if you were a Jedi, that was my original question. Like, do you know what you would look like? What color your lightsaber would be? Do you have kind of a persona that you think would?
I think I would be really close to like Obi-Wan Kenobi. That would be That's the one. That's the Jedi I gravitate towards the most.
I could see that because, like I said, I use the word Zen. You have a very Zen spirituality. I think you could very much feel the force around you, which I think that's
a great compliment. Like it's kind of like this. I think the true strength of Jedi's was their understanding. That was where their true strength came from, because they knew how to be and what to do and how to react appropriately. And when you lost sight of that is when it turned to the dark side, right? And so, but I mean, look, this is he probably wrote it that way too. I mean, there's a very universal theme to this.
I always wanted to be more of like an Ahsoka Tano, where she's kind of in between, where she was a Jedi that was not really disgraced, but left the order. And I always wanted my character to be like, or to be like a general that was in the army that had like Jedi strength. So I have like almost like a uniform with the cape and the hood, and have like the old yellow gold lightsaber kind of justice. They all mean different things. So, and I always thought about this too, like what kind of character, if you were asked to design a Star Wars character, like who would your character kind of be? And I've thought about that plenty of times.
When's the last time you watched Return of the Jedi? Recently?
Yeah, because we watched them all on the 4th because it was Jackson's birthday party.
Okay, let me tell you something. I remember so Return of the Jedi I think came out in like 90
No, 81.
80 no. Was it 81?
Star Wars was in 77. No, Empire Strikes Back was 81 in so I think
86, 84.
No, it was like 83.
Okay, anyways.
Yeah.
So, but when that was long. So when Luke Skywalker walks in the Jabba the Hutt thing, he's wearing that all black, and he just takes that like hood off, and he's just wearing all black. You know what I mean? And you could just like in your mind, you could hear AC/DC playing in the background.
Like he's pimping.
Yeah. And then he's like, just like go ahead and take me. And then he fucks up that monster, and then he's like, "Fuck you, we're gonna take you out to this monster in the ground thing." Still, when he's standing on that floating boat, he's got his hands tied behind his back. He's just as cool as and he's
he had something up his sleeve.
And he's in all black. He's just in all black. He's just fucking standing there. And I was like, this dude is a badass. That is badass. And so there is part of me that likes that all black, but I think that my personality would lend myself to more brown cloak.
I always liked the cloak. I always liked the way it drooped over their face, because you could use it for, you didn't have to see, you wouldn't trip over it, nothing. I mean, they just had a way of doing it. I love those cloaks. But also in my nerd world, the beast in the pit is the Rancor beast, and the pit is the Sarlacc pit, because I am a huge fucking nerd and I know this dumb shit.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much Star Wars you have to know to have Star Wars tattoos. You know what I mean?
Hey, you're doing good.
But like, maybe I should know that before I'm like,
getting Star Wars. Like I said, I just know like stupid bar trivia type stuff is my forte. In movies I'm good at knowing stuff about movies. I never know the directors that was a pretty good guess on the year. I'd say 83, but I don't think, I wouldn't know if I was correct or not.
I mean, that's what I love about ChatGPT, is having full conversations.
So I don't know. These are mine. These like point at me.
I mean, point at you.
So it's a question
well, that's fine. I mean,
it says like, what is one negative character trait I need to work on?
Oh, I can tell you that. You're like, I didn't sign up for this motherfucker.
No, I did. I chose to go on the show. And these are called the bad.
Yeah, no, so. It's not bad. It's that I feel like, in my opinion, you tend to sacrifice yourself too much for others. And it makes it hard for you to do your job at the level you need to do when you don't know where those boundaries are of how much you need. And I say that from a friend of like,
I'm afraid to hurt people's feelings. For sure.
And but understand that if you don't draw the line somewhere, people are always going to push it. And even when you draw the line, they're going to push it. But you got to know what you need to be the best cupcake you can be.
I mean, I know my wife doesn't want to hear this, but I think I need to figure out how to do that with her too. When something's upsetting me, I need to say like, babe, I'm trying to do the dishes, or I'm trying to do this. Like, I'm getting, we always call it big feelings. I'm getting big feelings, and just say, look, I I love you. You're right now tiptoeing around my area, or like I need some space, or I need, and I'm always afraid to hurt her feelings, because a lot of times my wife will be upset about something and I pick up on it immediately. And then she's like, "Why are you upset?" And I'm like, "I'm upset that you're upset." And she's like, "Why?" And I said, "Because somebody pissed you off, and that pisses me off." And I'm like, "I don't know why. It's just part of wanting her to be happy all the time." And there's a lot of times where she said, "Look, you can't fix this." And I said, "Well, I want to help." And she's like, "You can't." And that's where kudos to her for saying, "This is not about you. It's not about us. I'm pissed off about something in my world or work world or something else. You're just going to have to let me work through it." And that's where she's gotten great about that, because then it kind of makes me drop my attitude or my like pissed off. I'm like, "Okay, you're okay. I now know you're okay. I can be okay too. I need to take a deep breath. I can relax." And it helps me work better with the kids and everything else, because then I know we're not butting heads because of the tension in the room. She's got a lot of tension about something that she needs to do. I need to get her back. And that means I need to take Jackson to go play, or, grab the baby. And she's a lot better at that than I am. Whereas if I'm just about to pop a top, I'm afraid to say, "Hey, I need to go for a 5-minute walk or I'm going to lose my shit," because I don't want to hurt her feelings or mess with the kids. So yeah, that's
Okay. Well, I mean, what feels worse?
it's just, yeah, I got to figure out how to be better about just saying, "Hey, I need something."
Well, in a relationship in general, you're going to need things. You don't want to abuse that power, right? But your partner needs to understand that if you are asking those things, that you do need them. And if that is not something that you're willing to help with or do, then maybe this isn't the right partner for you. You know what I mean? Because that is a level of requirement inside of a relationship. You know what I mean? And I think that you have to decide where that line is for you.
But
Individually, everyone.
well, everyone, and people think, till you get married and you're changing, they're changing. You have to evolve together.
Well, I mean, even if you don't get married, you're still changing.
You're still changing.
Yeah, like there's still an evolution.
And
you're attached to, you're connected to somebody, and so that evolution is now also, there's a new person in the mix.
Yep.
You had 2 kids, that's another mix. That evolution is now changing at a really rapid rate. So like, try not to get too caught up in the change. Just like, how are we going to respond to all the change that's going to happen?
I mean, when I quit bartending all the time, that was a dramatic change in my life. And there was a lot of times Ashley would ask me, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, she's like, "I know you want to be out." I'm like, "I don't. Like, I'm cool. It's a drastic change." And then I went to work for her brother, and she would ask me, "Are you okay?" And I was like, they just don't communicate well. Sometimes I get pissed. Just let me vent for a minute. And I'd vent to her and she'd be like, "Okay." And, then with the baby, with the one child, we changed. With 2 child, it's always changing. And you're not just evolving as a person. You have to evolve as 2 people working together congruently to have a harmonious relationship that's never harmonious. It's crazy. I mean, it's never perfect. And, once you kind of accept those facts, you go, "Okay, let's do the best we can with what we got. At the beginning of the day, we love each other. At the end of the day, we love each other." I'm like, "Well, we covered that."
I like that we covered other questions.
Okay, this is me, but I'm going to ask you this one.
Okay.
Is there anything, I'm going to change it a little bit. It says, is there anything from, it says our past, but your past, that you have not forgiven yourself for?
I don't think there's anything I haven't forgiven myself for. But like, I don't know if this is a cop out. I have forgotten. I haven't forgotten these things that like just really I just wasn't really a good person in that moment, or I just really, I don't want to forget that those kinds of things are possible, but I've forgiven myself going like, all I can really hope is that I was doing my best in that moment.
Or you learned something from the wrong.
And the learning is the remembering too. Like, you know what I mean?
So don't take down all the monuments of people that were slave owners and idiots 200 years ago because we could forget. I don't know.
Well, no, it's kind of more of like, you know,
if you remember bad shit that you did and you've forgiven yourself, but I don't ever want to do that again, then you've learned a valuable lesson. And that's something you definitely want to hold on to and take with you. That way you don't make the same mistake twice. It's tricky, isn't it?
No. I don't know why I'm stuck on this particular thing. Like, I feel like if you want something removed out of your life because it triggers something in you, the more important question would be, why is something like that triggering you? And maybe we don't have to remove it. You know, if we really break it to go like, well, what's going on with you about this? And what is the real like, because you're talking about like, you know, being mad about an inanimate object that was built a long time ago by people that don't even know you exist, and the world is so much different now. So, you know, but I mean, and I understand even people getting their feelings hurt, but like, let's solve real fucking issues.
There's hungry people.
There's just like
people that don't have houses, but yeah, we can't figure out. But you know,
but like, look, this kind of shit happens in all countries. They tear down. I mean, it's not like the statues in the United States were the first statues to get torn down ever in the world. They've been tearing down statues for a hot ass minute. You know what I mean? It's more of a symbol of something than it is the actual tearing down of the actual object. You know what I mean? It's what it means. You know, because that becomes more important. Which can be valid, too.
This says, recommend a television show or movie. What you watching these days?
Oh, man. I don't watch anything. What can I recommend?
It'll be old news by the time.
No, you know what? No, it won't be old news.
I've been going back and watching a lot of older stuff, too, just random stuff that pops up. Or if it's like, I love Ghostbusters or like, you know, Big or something pops on, I will turn it on and just let it go. I've seen it a million times, but I'm like, I just put it in the background and kind of go, I love that part. I love it.
If I had to pick something just on the top of my head, like, go back and watch things that you thought were totally fucking awesome when you were a kid or younger adult. Movies, cartoons, anything that you think of, go back and watch it. I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen.
I have all the DVDs of Transformers.
Yeah.
And I thought about breaking them out and watching them with Jackson if he'd watch them.
But here's the deal. It'll make you believe in magic. And that's why you should go back and watch it.
Those feelings are great.
Right. Because when you go, well, here's the thing though. I guess I'm going to spoil it. When you go back and watch it, especially if you're close to my age or within, like 30s or 40s, these cartoons are going to suck. They're horrible. They were horribly drawn. The mouthing is like the words are bad. There's
sometimes they say some like terribly they say something terrible that you're like, oh, I just picked up on.
They say something like really like that's not a PC like now, and you're just like, dude, what? You're like, did you hear what that robot just said?
If you watch Animaniacs.
But what I'm trying to say is,
but they will say some effed up shit, and it's like, oh, I didn't catch that dirty joke, or I didn't catch that one liner in there, 20 years ago.
But it always brings me back.
40 years ago.
It always brings me back to how wonderful I thought that those things were in these movies and these shows and stuff like that. Even like movies I watched in college, I'll go back and watch them, and I thought there was such great acting and they were so funny. But it just shows me also that like I've evolved, and so like there is like a level of like even the older episodes of my own podcast that I've watched. There's an evolution, like a weird evolution of like what I thought was really going on and what really went on, and then like, what's happening now, and that's weird.
Like Conan the Barbarian. It's a great movie.
Yeah. I mean, horrible acting. Really, really, really horrible acting. But, it defined a moment in time. It didn't need to be any better than it was at that time. At the time that it was it was great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's a lot of things are period kind of pieces like that.
If I could recommend some, I did like Fallout. Did you watch Fallout?
Was it good?
It was good. And I mean, the costume designs were good. The like scene designs or whatever, they just did a really good job. And Walter Goggins or whatever, the actor, he plays the bad guy. He's a good actor. Like they crushed it. It was all around really, really done well. And there's a lot of times now you can watch something and go, okay, that costumes were great, but this was faltering. I liked this actor, but I couldn't understand a damn word that guy was saying. With that first part of it, I was like, damn, that was good. So that's rare these days. It's just like, man, that was awesome.
Fallout.
Check it out.
All right, what you got? Is this the last thing?
I guess so.
I like that there's not really been like an order, rhyme, or reason of anything.
No, I mean,
it's great. Yeah.
And, I even changed some of the questions. I said that's good, but I want to twist on it.
Yeah, I like it. I'm down. I'm here for it.
I don't know if I got another one.
What are these two on the floor over here? Were they extra questions or what?
I don't know. Let's see. Maybe they were ones I pulled out. Ooh, I do like this one.
All right, see, we'll end with that.
Okay, if you could start any business, what would it be and why?
Man, like I don't know how you make money at this business.
Well, let's take that off the board.
But no, okay. My divorce did something for me and made me make choices to change my life in a positive way. And I never thought that I could feel like this. I never thought that feeling like this was possible. I thought I would always struggle with all of my anxiety and all my depression and everything that came along with it and all the things I hid. And so to be on the other side, I'm like, it's possible. And so then when I talk to people and they like tell me it's impossible, I'm like, but it is possible. I don't know how to tell you to understand this, but it is possible. And if I have a business where, people could realize that the things that they want to do, maybe not always in the capacity or the exact idea of the exact moment and time in which they want to do it, but there is a possibility of a future in which the things that you want and you want your life to be is possible. And they would listen and it would happen for them. Like it would be awesome, because then everyone would be a little bit closer to the people that they're supposed to be. And it's kind of like the idea of that, like in the beginning of, the earth or America, of our world or society or whatever the fuck you call it, people were just like painters and nobody worried about how much money they made. They were just painters. There's people that they carpenters, and that's what they did for a living. And it's not that they had to make a certain amount of money. They were carpenters. You know what I mean? And at some point it got flipped to where we have to support ourselves financially. So we have to have jobs.
So were they all gardeners too? Because they grew food.
Anything. You could just be anything. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, once we get ourselves caught in a cycle of that, like we need money to provide and blah, 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 then it's like an exchange for energy. And then you don't really get to be whoever you wanted to be. And so, there's a level of sacrifice that comes along with a level of happiness. And I think that that's also an exchange that makes it happen that I maybe didn't understand before my divorce.
So the Willy Wonka of possibilities, which would be really cool. Yeah. You would wear like a purple top hat and sing cool songs, which would be awesome for you anyway. But that would be awesome.
Well, I've never thought about it. It's kind of like remember that show Fantasy Island?
Yeah.
The plane.
Can I be tattooed? Yeah.
But no, it's more of like I have friends that'll say things like, like everything doesn't have to mean something. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It doesn't, but it also can. And life's a lot richer when you put belief into it. And that's also kind of what, believing in religion and stuff in the universe is. It's belief. And like there is a level of let go and believe that these things that I do, if they do not reward me in the present, are repaid in the future tenfold, right? And trusting in that process, even when you feel like that you deserve something for the things that you've done, it might not be the right time.
It's almost like being like a fairy godmother or like the ghost of Christmas future, where you could just show someone like almost like a tidbit or something. Your life could be this, like the possibility is there, would be kind of cool.
You know what's so
I feel
okay?
like that would give so much more people hope.
What I always find so interesting about musicians and artists is usually like their sacrifice to be the great musician or artist that they become in whatever way, right? You know, when someone's a huge rock star, you know, they don't ever talk about when nobody came to their shows. They don't talk about when they were just traveling around a van. Maybe sometimes they do. And they go, oh, those times, but they don't talk about like probably how defeating, you know, if they did 3 shows in a row and nobody showed up, how defeating that was. And they still had to keep doing it to get to a place that they're selling out arenas. And no one, like, that is the process. You know what I mean? And that is the process in choosing what your purpose is and what you want to do. It's the same thing. There are going to be sacrifices that, you know, selling my sneaker collection is a sacrifice of me doing the podcast because where I want to put my energy and money is into the art of the podcast, not buying sneakers. So one of them has to go. So that's why I've changed that. You know,
I'd have to find the exact quote and send you, but I think it was something like Will Smith. They asked him about like after all that crap and like what he wants to do, and he said, "Man, I've bought in houses, I've bought in cars, all the money in the world." He goes, I wish I could just be comfortable in my own skin, in my own mind, in my own head." And he said, if I had that, I wouldn't need any of the other stuff, kind of deal. And I don't remember exactly how he said it, but it was something I read too. And I was like, man, that like, would you give up everything to be comfortable in your own mind, body, spirit? Like but everybody searches for junk.
you know, what's so funny is,
Got to buy a car, got to buy a house, got to buy.
you know, the services I provide are luxuries to people, right? So the people that afford my services tend to do really well for themselves, but they also tend to slack in their mental and physical health, and then that's why they find me, right? Now, my job makes enough money to support my family and everything I do, but I'm not just a millionaire, right? But I always think like, man, I feel so lucky to be in my position at the age I'm at with the health I have and the physical health I have, the mental health I have. And even though I don't have all this money, I have more time to make more money, enjoy my life, and do those things just because of my health. I just have more opportunities. I have more opportunities for more things. And like, it's so sad that like someone lets their health slack off so far that they do have the money, but you're not gonna have the same opportunities.
Well, and I feel like I learned part of this from you too, is mental health is extremely important.
It's where it all starts.
And, 15 years ago, I think people thought if you went to a therapist that you were broken. And I mean, we all are kind of broken, but you're not broken. Like, in people that are afraid to ask for help or afraid to go to therapy, and like, don't go to a friend, go to a professional, somebody that knows. I hope that as we grow as a society, more people are getting very open-minded to therapy of some kind. And I'm like, please, you might waste a couple bucks and it may not work, but you may go talk to somebody and it may be life-changing. And I think it's more on the greater side. I mean, I've known people that have gone to 2 or 3, 4 therapists and they're like, I didn't like the first 1 or 2. It didn't work for me. And then I found one that I clicked with and it opened my eyes to a whole different world that I was living. And I always thought that you were very good at saying, hey, your physical body needs to move and you need to, but your mind does too. And you were always very cool about like, you have to be comfortable in your own skin. You have to have good mental health. And that's one thing that Lawrence and I talk about a lot at work and everywhere else is like, let's do something for some people. Let's attach a charity to this. Let's see if we can help people. Like, and it makes us feel good about ourselves as well as help other people. And we always talk about like good mental clarity, good therapy. Like, we get on the phone, we bitch to each other about stuff. And I'm like, you good? And he's like, yeah, I mean, I really needed to kind of unload those things. And, we kind of help each other out in that aspect. Now, granted, we're not professionals either, but I do feel like good mental health is extremely important. And in this society, hopefully more people are figuring that out too, because the world's still tough.
Well, I've had a lot of therapists. I've had quite a few therapists. And when people ask me like what I do for people and like how is that different than like a therapist, what I usually tell them is a therapist is to help you sort and sift through your past and feel what is holding you, what is from your past is holding you back, right? And then you bring that to me and we bring awareness around these things and when they're happening and how they're happening. And then we co-create a future in which those things change, where your life takes a more positive direction.
Yeah,
right.
I like that.
And so I'm not a therapist. That's not my job. I'm very lucky that I understand therapy, and I'm engaged in it. I've had it. I read about it. It's interesting to me, but ultimately that's for a professional therapist. But in understanding that, it allows me to go, okay, so how can we take these things and put application to making change, right? And that affects your present, which ultimately affects your future.
So I'm gonna find you a T-shirt with a Rubik's cube on it, and that's what I'm, because you're so good at, just like I said, just you look at things in a certain way.
But really, like I always tell people when I'm like, I'll be kind of joking. I'll be like, what do you do for a living? I ask questions. That's all I do. That's all I do all day long is I ask questions. So like when I'm working with a client and say we're working in like physical thing, I'm like, how are you feeling? How does that feel? What does that move when you make that move? What is that like? Blah, blah, blah. Give me feedback. And then in between time, I'm like, well, how does your mind feel? How is work today? Like, how are things going? And we're working through these two processes at the same time. And sometimes exercise allows people to not focus on the fact that they're opening up emotionally and mentally, well. Right? They kind of it's like distracting. And so then they say and think of things and say things out loud that they've never thought before, because it's almost like like you're driving your car and you kind of zone out. It's like, because this other action's happening, it allows your mind to open up to other ideas. And sometimes they hear things a different way. And that just comes from me asking questions.
That's in the bar world. They're always like, you're part therapist. Absolutely. I mean, I've had a million people talk to me about life and life issues, life problems, everything. And I'm good at giving other people advice. I'm terrible at taking my own advice, which a lot of people are. But I think one point in time, Ashley asked me, she goes, you listen to everybody's stuff and you're very empathetic and you're very concerned about them, that you take it in. What do you do to like help you? And I was like, I talk to Scottie. and I was like, so when we quit working out, that was one of the biggest things that I really missed, was not the physical activity. It was the conversations we had, because like you helped me open my mind to different ideas. And I was like, man, I just like talking about it. And that's what, like I said, Lawrence and I really try to help each other do that. And I mean, sometimes we wear each other out, but it's just what we do.
Well, I feel bad. I feel bad for people that really have never had any friends. Now, that might be at the fault of the person, but that still doesn't make it any less sad that, because I mean, this whole thing is about human interaction and connection and that vibe, you know what I mean? And that's in the Bible and everywhere else. And so, when someone is isolated to that depths, it's no wonder that they struggle, because it's just important. It's really important. It's important for, your kids to be around their grandparents and be around other kids and be around other parents and have your grandparents discipline in a way that you wouldn't do. That's important. It's important for them to experience all of it. You know what I mean? And they'll be fine. They'll be totally fine. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds so shitty that there's so many kids that grow up in a world so much more horrible than probably the majority of our kids, and they turn out fine somehow. And that's so fucked up, because I couldn't imagine even hurting a child, much less hearing stories of children getting hurt and then somehow they persevere into, into great leaders or whatever it is,
I don't know how single parents.
I don't know either, dog. Like I tell,
single mom, single dad, if you are out, and this is a shout out to those people, man, you are angels. Because, dude, it is hard raising a kid with a spouse and out with two. And my grandparents are around to help out here and there. Man, if you are on your own with children, man, you are a badass. Because, damn, it's hard.
Let me tell you something. When I first got to Austin, I dated this girl that she had two kids at the time. They were 2 and 5, right? Fast forward to me having my own child. She was a single mom. The dad was in the picture and helping, but still part of the time she went and worked out. She carried a job. She was doing, she read to him every night. Like, she was doing all the things, they played sports, the whole deal. I never gave her the credit that was due at the time that she was doing all that. And she had to deal with my ass, which I was just in such a bad fucking place. So she had all that, and she was dealing with me, right? And now as a parent, and when I have to be by myself for periods of time when my girlfriend's gone, it's kind of like, dang, she did that every fucking day. And kudos to her. That must have been so hard. You know what I mean? And I hope that, you deserve, I'm not going to say her name, but you deserve a gold medal.
It's crazy.
It's so impressive.
And you don't know until you walk a mile in their shoes, and you don't walk a mile in their shoes.
I didn't have to walk a mile. I walked like 100 feet. And I was like, this is fucking bullshit.
You giving me a baby and you got to make I always laugh because everybody's like, do you have 2 kids now? And I'm like, yeah, somebody was dumb enough to give me a baby. And granted, I feel like I do a pretty decent job.
You're a good dad.
But there's a lot of people that don't. And you got to do the best you can with what you got. But there's a lot of people that don't do anything with what they got. And that's where I get upset too. I'm like, dude, don't teach your kids to be an asshole. Don't neglect. Like, there's things in life that you can neglect. You don't want to brush your teeth. Be gross. Just don't kiss nobody. But when it comes to your children,
brush your teeth.
Brush their teeth.
Yeah.
Give them every opportunity to be better than you.
Well, just give them choices. Okay? Like sustainable, easy,
realistic
choices.
Yeah.
Okay? And things they need to do. You don't want to brush your teeth. You don't have to be a family that doesn't brush your teeth. Let them decide what kind of family they want to be. Hey, Cup. Thank you.
I know we're still talking.